I think that was his footsteps.
Our lights are still, okay. Greg, you need to punch your.
Yeah.
You need to hit your button.
This is a special meeting and public hearing being held at the call of the chairman by the Architectural Review and Planning Board of the town of Gulfstream, Florida, on Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, at 8:30 a.m. in the William F. Cope Jr. Commission Chambers of the Town Hall, 100 Sea Road, Gulfstream, Florida.
Thank you, Rita. Let's call the meeting to order. Rita, would you do a roll call, please, when you're ready?
Mrs. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Mrs. Jones.
Yeah.
Chairman Smith.
Here.
Let the record show that Curtis Roach is absent. And also present are Gregory Dunham, town manager, Edward Nazaro, town attorney, and myself.
Thank you, Rita. You all had a chance, I hope, to read the minutes of our meeting from a week ago. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, or additions? I have a motion to approve. It's been moved.
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Rita, please.
Okay, Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Murphy, Jones.
Should we start again? Yes. I'm sure I was in there somewhere.
Are there any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, or arrangements to the agenda that you have in front of you?
No.
There are no announcements. We've already talked about future meeting dates at our last meeting. I think we can start with the public hearing. Does anybody have any ex parte communications to disclose?
No.
I did during the week speak to the town attorney and town manager. Okay, Rita, would you administer oaths for all those who wish to speak today?
All those please stand and raise their right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
This is a continuation from our meeting a week ago where we suspended until today to give the applicant a chance to come back to us with some potential changes to their original proposal. Ben, are you going to speak first or? Okay. Morning. Good morning.
First and foremost, we want to thank the ARPB and the town staff for taking the time out of your busy schedules to accommodate the special meeting. We're deeply appreciative of you and thank you. You should have previously received our letter and exhibit, so I'm not going to repeat them here this morning. I'll just simply say that one, our home conforms the code by all objective measures. Two, the direct code neighbors and many others throughout the neighborhood have spoken through their support letters, which you received in your packets prior to the meeting. These are the homeowners that have invested millions into their code properties and will daily experience views of our property in the future. While everybody has a voice and deserves to be heard, these voices should ring loudest in their overwhelming written support. Our home meets the criteria explicitly available in the code to waterfront new construction for special exception as detailed last week. Benjamin's going to talk more about that this morning, and will even be 5 feet further back from the existing home's current southern boundary. This is a very large and unusual lot. We'd encourage the town not to let scare tactics of mansions popping up everywhere confuse the fact that this is the largest core point lot in the neighborhood and is worthy of a proportionate home. Notwithstanding, we've listened to concerns of mass and made a number of changes, which Benjamin will review. We're trying in good faith to work with the town to address an admittedly amorphous and subjective target based solely on personal opinion, despite what the homeowner and the direct code neighbors want for a value enhancing project. Thanks again for your time, and we respectfully look forward to your approval and ultimately the town's commission.
Thank you.
Good morning. Again, Benjamin Schreier from Affinity Architects.
Good morning.
And thank you also for making this special meeting happen. First of all, I'd like to address the matter of the 4 items that need to be hurdles for the special exception. And at the last meeting, 2 items were identified as okay, we're fine with, and 2 weren't. If we could call it the aerial image, please. It's in the the earlier presentation, not the second one. There we go. And if we could zoom in on the part on the right there. Okay, if you look in the there we go, in the right-hand portion of this image, at the aerial image of the property, this house sits on Banyan Road. Banyan Road, as we have counted it, has 4 banyan trees. It's terminated by 2 incredibly significant banyan trees that sits on the Davis's property. Those banyan trees, the 2 of them sit 9 feet in from the property line, and their canopy as of today extends 45 feet into the property. And I believe over time it will extend further as the Davises, once the house is completed, allow the tree to further mature and goes as much as 50 feet. Therefore, because of that, that's why we're asking for the relief, so that the house can be positioned closer to the water, so that we can have adequate room, so that those banyan trees, which are, we believe, are a significant feature of Gulf Stream, can be retained. Regarding the other item, which was that the reduced setback won't alter the character of the waterfront. Again, as Mr. Davis has said, the new house is sitting back 7 feet farther from the water than the current house, as well as I believe there are now 14 letters of support from neighbors, including many from around the cove, which have seen the design and support the design and wanted you to hear that today. Now, if we can go to today's presentation. I think we can just fast forward to the elevations. What we've done is we heard your concerns greatly about mass. And as I said, as we all understood at the end of last meeting, you could have a 3,000 square foot home, which has a 10-foot ceiling height or a 15-foot square height. And by reducing it from 15 to 10 feet, you would change the mass without altering any of the square footage. So while none of the square footage has been altered, what has been done is the roof pitches and the gables have been significantly reduced. So the overall height of the house at the tallest portion has been reduced by 2 feet, from 30 feet to 28 feet. And on the lower portions, we've reduced the pitch of the roof from 9 on 12 all the way down to 6 on 12, therefore reducing on the one-story portions of the house, the height by 3 feet. Overall, we did a mass study where we studied the volume of the house, and we did calculations which revealed that this resulted in a reduction of 13% of the mass of the house. So with this in mind, if we can go forward, this is showing the images with the landscaping where now none of the peaks are even visible. And then we're going to show it without the landscaping eventually. Well, if we stop right here, if we go back a slide, please. The upper one, what was previously presented up on the top here, where we see the gable end very tall, we've brought it down at this location as much as 3 feet by changing the proportions on the Dutch gable end. Let's go forward, please. And here we can see above, which was the taller one, and the one below, which has less volume and is therefore less massive. We can see on the left, the gable here, which is 3 feet lower than up above. And then at the center portion of the house, where previously, not only have we changed the pitch of this roof and changed the proportions on the Dutch gable, previously the Dutch gable, when viewed in a way that one never sees it, flat on, as if you're up almost at 12 feet in the air, where the peak was above the ridge line of the house. Now it is below the ridge line of the house. It is short. So it's even shorter than the 2 feet that the main portion of the house was lowered. But in perspective, it'll still read appropriate for the style of architecture. We can go to the next slide, please. The same thing occurs on this elevation. Next slide, please. And then on this elevation from the cove side, again, the proportions have been brought down here at the main Dutch gable, the one that's at the master suite. And then we've also lowered the chimneys significantly as well. So they're not appearing as massive. And the next slide, please. And then this is as viewed from the west, again, from the Intercoastal Waterway down below. This gable's lower, the peaks are lower, and the overall mass of the house is significantly reduced, again, by 13%. This, in combination with the 14 letters from the neighbors, which are the ones that have been able to have been gotten, who had the time in the past week or so to write a letter, I believe supports what the Davises would like to do with the property and the design that is being presented to you today. Perspective of the front of the house, that would be great. Oh, maybe this is fine, actually.
Would we like to discuss it first, or Bill, would you like to speak first?
Yeah, just a few points. I sort of feel like here we are again. I must say that that was a helpful presentation. The real issue still is it in compliance with the code? I think my own experience is probably somewhat similar to what you may have had. I think maybe if you had page A 4.5, of the actual drawings, it might be helpful. I opened it up, that page where the comparison is on the east elevation. And I must say, my first reaction was, my God, there's a printer's mistake here. They've used the same elevation on both the top and the bottom of the page. In other words, I just didn't, took me a while to figure out exactly what the change was. Now, I brought my magnifying glass in case some of you might like to see it as well. And it really relates, as the architect has said, to the roof line on that section. And it has been reduced 2 feet. That's 7%, by the way, of the height. And I would encourage you to think about it and ask yourself if I have to conclude that massing has not been dealt with enough to satisfy what was the commission asked you to look at. But you can reach your own conclusions on that. The point is it like everything around us? And the, not like, is it consistent with houses around it? Nancy and I were out actually last night and after dark and drove by the vacant lot and looked over to the parcel. And it was interesting, there were a few lights twinkling on the existing house. But it was interesting to say, what if this house was there with lights on? What would that be like? I think it would be just take over the code. But that goes to the massing issue. And we've been very nice to Mr. Davis, I think. Held two meetings of your committee, special meetings. I felt really good when we left here last time because I thought they were really going to go and come back with some significant changes that address the massing issue and think about the other 3 or so issues that the commission set forth. But unfortunately, I have to look at it and say they haven't. And that goes back to the commission. They're gonna look at that, probably have the reaction that I did and say, well, that's just the same as it was. Certainly, the other issues have been verbally addressed, but they've been rejected. And so what we're left with is a situation where there really has been, in my opinion, no meaningful compliance with the directives of the commission. And I think it's incumbent upon you to send it back to the commission and say that you made Herculean attempts to make arrangements with Mr. Davis, and they are to no significant result. And I think you need to also think a minute about the effect of the neighbors and these letters. And it's, I understand the commissioner suggested that you do that, which impresses me, tickles me a little bit. And you have the letters. There are 10 houses on the code that aren't included in those letters, 6 that are. And anything like that, it's a survey, and you have to ask yourself, what did they see? What were they told? Well, I can't speak for all the people on the code, but I can speak for what was in my mailbox. And I ask you to look at this. Pass it around. This is what I want you to take a good look at that. And then look at what was shown to the neighbors.
Thank you.
Rita, have any of the neighbors come to the town to actually view
No.
the large document?
I can put very little confidence in letters that are written after receiving that disclosure without that one. And keep in mind, what we're talking about is structures. Structures. That's what the code talks about. Structures. Foliage is nice and foliage is dealt with elsewhere, but the question is, are we going to have structures that conform to the code? Or are we going to let this happen and create, as I said to you last time, sort of create the poster child for more of this? Well, look what they did over in Banyan. There's more here than even the neighbors across the code. This is the critical moment where we either start enforcing it or we don't. And it's a big decision. So it's in your lap. And do what's right for the town. Do what Civic Association Board has asked you to do. You want letters? Give me a week. I'll get more letters than you can read in a month. You've got 14 disinterested directors on the Civic Association Board that have authorized all this. So good luck, Godspeed.
Bill, has your board met this week?
No.
Okay, so they haven't really had a chance to address the proposals that have been put forth today. They're opposed to it.
Well, no, we got this last night.
Okay. I respectfully disagree with you somewhat in that I think they have made a fairly strong attempt to come back to us with a change. And I think a 13% mass reduction is probably hard to see in 2 dimensions, but I think you'd see it a lot in a 3-dimensional sort of an existence. I do agree when you just look at it from this distance, that small, it looks like nothing's changed. But if you study it carefully and look at the roof line, especially the east side 1-story building, it's significantly less brown, so to speak, which would be the low. You can see windows above now that you couldn't see before. Same with the front elevation. All of the gables have changed, have been moved down 2 feet or 3 feet. So, I mean, I can't sit here and say they haven't made a fairly strong attempt to make a change. Would it be enough for the commission? I don't know that. But I do think they have come to us with that. The other point I'd like to make before I open it up is that we still have the special exception to deal with. And I'm looking at the symmetry of the whole property from the aerial view. And I just think if you chop that master bedroom wing off, meaning move it more north from where it is, that it kind of changes the whole architectural symmetry of the whole property in the building. And it's symmetrical now, and it would not be anymore. And the other thing is that if I had paid $4 or $5 million for the lot and it was in the master bedroom, I'd probably like to be able to look west and south and east. And I think if you move that thing back 10 or 15 feet, you'll be in your master bedroom and won't be able to see, probably, you may be able to see south and east, but certainly wouldn't be able to look west. But I would like to talk a little bit more about the special exception, because remember, we didn't meet all the points. And Trey, can you find those quickly? It was the second one that was the most troubling.
I believe that's the one that the applicant addressed initially. The reduction of the rear setback is necessary to ensure adequate buildable area. Is that the one?
No. Yeah, maybe that's it. That there wouldn't be enough buildable area without it. I think that was the one. I don't agree with that argument, meaning that I disagree with the applicant. Do you have any comments, Mandy or Malcolm or Georgette?
I think they've done a great job in reducing the volume, the massing, and I think it's a very handsome house.
I think at the last meeting, we gave you a specific request to come back and address the massing. We've made it very clear that FAR is all met and it's within the metrics. I think the effort you've made here addresses what we asked you to come back with. It's that question of enough. Is it enough? It's a subjective term. But in terms of the effort you've made, and also we have rejected as a board when neighbours have come back, when proposals, applications have met the FAR and other, if you like, code metrics, we've pushed back on that. Conversely, we actually do have a significant amount of number of neighbours who've come back, albeit that from what you're saying, Bill, they didn't see what we saw today, from what I understand. But the fact that you've got that level of support, we have, as I say, conversely pushed things back. It's a very important part, is how the neighbours feel. We've always asked that. You'll see it in the minutes, any feedback from the neighbours. So I think it's a strong argument that you've got this degree of support. Yes, there's a qualitative element if this goes forward to the commission, but in terms of addressing exactly what we requested on a unique lot, and we try and push back from mansionisation and things like that, but we make it clear we take each application on its own merits. And in terms of the footprint of this lot, it is unique. So we have to address it with this amount of detail. But you have, as far as I'm concerned, addressed what we asked you to come back with.
Bill, if this moves forward, what you may want to do is you certainly have a right to get opposing letters from, you're representing 14 people aboard and the rest of the town, but no one has really written or come forward to us. You did on behalf of the Civic Association, but no neighbor. And in fact, the closest neighbors to it, the immediate neighbor, seems to be in favor of it. We're not feeling any real negative. You say, well, there's 10 people that didn't write, and maybe they didn't write, maybe not writing is voting no, but I think they could have called in or written in or spoken to one of us. And so I don't feel that the immediate neighbors that are most impacted by it, now you can see it because of the Clark vacant lot, but if there's a home on that someday, I don't know if anyone's going to see it other than the people really living on the cove. I'm just saying that if it goes forward from this committee to the commission, that you certainly have a right to probably obviously address it at the commission meeting, but you also may want to get some actual, if there are negative comments about it, people living on the cove, you may want to see if someone would write a letter or come forward for it. Okay. Anything, Georgia?
Yeah, I agree with Bill in one sense that we're at a critical point in town and things are happening. But I also agree with JR that to me, this is the property in the core and it deserves a significant house on it. And I think the massing has come down a little. I personally don't think that the town commission is going to see it that way, but I see both sides of it. But I do think that this lot can handle this. I don't think it would be out of place on this lot. It would be out of place on another point lot somewhere else, but I think it is a lovely home.
Any other comments, staff?
I would just say it sounds like we have a consensus that the application is acceptable. There was a comment about maybe the town commission would disagree. So I would just ask that in the motion, or maybe with some additional discussion, in the motion, you include maybe what specifically you found was sort of put it over the line to where you felt like the massing reduction was significant enough to recommend approval. Just so you have a little bit more than just a motion to recommend approval. You would just ask that maybe you base it on some of the changes that the applicant put on the record.
Would that be a motion or just a recommendation? Do we make the recommendation as a motion?
That's correct. Yes.
I think Mr. Boardman has something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. Just reading my notes here.
I can see we're going to have a major victory today. we're going to get the great bulk of what we wanted. Let's go back to Old School Road. Okay, that's where it started for the association board. And what we have done, I hope, and I'm hearing, is made it very clear to both the commission and the ARPB that this concept is not, that your job is not just limited to numbers and FARs, that there's got to be another half to the equation in the site section, looking at these issues we're talking about. You misquoted me earlier. I've never said this wasn't, I think it's a gorgeous house. I really do. I've never said it was any kind of bad looking house. It's a very nice house. In my opinion, on a 40-acre lot, it would be spectacular, Downton Abbey. But I think I totally understand. Different people think a different amount of change is necessary, and I respect that. So I'm, if I were, but the main thing is you've spent time at it, and hopefully there won't be any more old school roads as we go forward, because that's not a unique lot.
No.
And keep thinking about those 20 to 25 single floor houses on Polo Drive. Think about those, okay?
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Benjamin, did you want to say anything?
Okay. Benjamin, could you just address the special exception again about the point you made with the banyan tree? Essentially, that's, unless my recall's gone, this is the first time you've put that in relation to the special exception request. I didn't hear it last week. I just want to make sure I fully understand.
Identify it. Okay, it's section 70-75 J2.
Yeah.
That reduction of the rear setback is necessary to ensure adequate buildable area.
Yeah.
This lot has a unique condition of 2 existing very large banyan trees, which I don't believe Gulfstream has historic tree designation, but I believe the Davises, if they wanted to, could remove those trees as part of this, as part of an application, but they don't want to. They want to protect them. They're part of the definition of the property. They're part of the definition of Banyan Road. And as a result of it, the tree trunks are 9 feet in from the property line, and the canopy is 45 feet in from the canopy and will be growing to nearly 50 feet plus beyond it. Therefore, the front setback, which is currently 30 and 35 feet, we're asking for the special exception so that we can have a portion of the house go closer to the rear. And it's within the allowable of what that special exception is. But that's what's causing the request for.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, are we at the point of making a motion? Malcolm, would you like to make a motion, please?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for a demolition permit to remove existing structures on the property with the exception of the existing entry wall pier feature at the entrance.
There a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
I'd also like to make a motion to approve the application for a special exception to reduce the rear setback from 50 feet to 35 feet as per section 70-5 brackets J, rear setbacks for waterfront lots in the core district.
Second.
Just as a point of clarification, this is a motion to recommend to the town commission. So I think those might have
What I
been.
was going to do was make the sorry, just to hold. I was going to do the final motion number 4 to say that we request the commission to recognise that the applicant has addressed the volume, the setback, the 4 areas that we do. I was going to do those as a bullet points at the end as a request.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying with respect to the motions that you're making, it should be a motion to recommend approval, demolition permit, and the special exception. I think that maybe the wording was not in there.
Sorry.
We recommend it.
It should be a motion to recommend approval.
Okay.
Not a,
Sorry, not approved. Yes, it's a level 3. Sorry, level 3.
my apologies.
Yes,
Thank you.
no worries. Do you want me to go back and recommend? Yeah. Can I withdraw those motions and make new motions, please? Right. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a demolition permit to remove existing structures on the property with the exception of the existing entry wall pier feature at the entrance.
Second,
Moved and seconded, Rita?
Mrs. Smith,
yes.
Vice Chair Murphy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
I'd also like to recommend approval of the application for a special exception to reduce the rear setback from 50 feet to 35 feet as per section 70-5 brackets J, rear setbacks for waterfront lots in the core district.
Second,
Moved and seconded, Rita?
Mrs. Smith,
yes.
Vice Chair Murphy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan review to permit the construction of a single family home, 2-story, 8,699 square feet, Anglo-Caribbean dwelling with attached 2.5 car garage and swimming pool.
Second,
Moved and seconded.
Mrs. Smith,
yes.
Vice Chair Murphy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
I'd also like to make a motion that we request the commission to recognise the points that have been addressed when it came back to the board, namely that the colours of the window frames and garage doors have been addressed, that the massing has been reduced by 13%, and that the square footage hasn't changed, and also that the special exception is in terms of accommodating the 2 large banyan trees, which are a signature part of the property.
Second,
Before we, does that cover the 5 things that we needed to address from the town?
Yeah, that's everything that we would need. And just as far as your
Yeah,
recommendation, if everyone's in agreement.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, Rita?
Mrs. Smith,
yes.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I don't think there's anything else we need to do. Bill, you can,
On the record, whatever.
okay.
I'd like people to leave here knowing that it would not be my current recommendation to go back to the board and go to the commission. I think your expertise here is fine. So in other words, I'm not going to go back and recommend that we do more on this issue.
Right. You mean that the commission sends it back to the ARPB? No, it's say
No,
that.
that's going back to the commission. What I'm
Correct.
saying, my current thinking is, we're not going to go to the commission and carry this thing forward.
You need a civic association? is that
Yeah.
what you mean?
Yeah. I'm not. If we wanted to, and thought it was in the best interest of the town to carry this thing forward, we could go to the commission and argue that they shouldn't approve it anyway. Right?
Right.
My feeling is that it's not an effort if we want to do. So this is it as far as the.
Well, I can't speak for the commission, Bill, but I'm sure there'll be a lively discussion again at the commission meeting, because they're going to want to agree or disagree with our bringing it forward to them after having two different meetings and discussions. So we'll just see what happens there.
Well, I would not go back to the commission without the approval of the Civic Association board, and I don't plan to seek that approval.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? I think we're finished. Items by staff. The public, Bill has spoken. Items by board members? No? All right, thank you. We're adjourned. Thank you. Stuff, no paperwork. It's good to keep it. And so you need luck. Oh, boy. That's a tough one, but